Hey guys, so today we have a video testimony from Natascha and Don Phillips. This is a wonderful testimony from a couple who was blessed in marriage pretty recently, and they share a story that is pretty vulnerable and pretty inspiring and encouraging, I hope, for everyone, especially if you are in the maybe 28 plus, 30 plus, 40 plus years age range. I think this will be especially inspiring and encouraging for you. We really wanted to share real testimony from a couple that has been through some experience and experienced some discouragement, or maybe something that you're experiencing right now. So we really wanted this to be the encouraging testimony for you guys. So check it out. Enjoy. Take care.
We're very excited to be here this afternoon or morning, wherever you're joining us from. So we're going to be talking about the matching, but specifically the preparation, leading up to the matching, what we did before we got matched, and just how we got matched at the end. And we're dividing up our testimony. I'll be focusing more on the vertical preparation, while Don is focusing more on the horizontal. So yeah, just like to start off by giving a little bit of background about us. So Don can talk more about himself later, but just very briefly, my name is Natascha Phillips, originally Schellen, that was my maiden name, and I'm German-Austrian, so full European. I lived in Europe for the first 7 years of my life, and then moved to the tiny country of Lebanon in the Middle East, where my parents are National Messiah. And most of my life, I actually grew up living quite isolated. We were the only blessed family in the whole country. So that just gives you an idea of like a basic upbringing background. So let's start with the testimony. So for me, it starts with the question of the vision, right? Like, why did I want to get blessed, right? Why did I want this? Growing up, I didn't have a lot of examples of the blessing, right? I didn't grow up around other blessed couples or blessed families. So my example was my parents mainly. And I loved to watch them and their relationship, and especially their passion and their faith for God and living for others. As people who are doing mission work, they're very invested in, taking care of other people, educating them. And I just was really attracted to that kind of life. And through their example, I felt I want to have that too, right? I grew up with a pretty strong faith, I would say, in God, knowing, God is my parent and he loves me. And it's at least on a conceptual level, maybe not deep in my heart. I still had, I guess, like everyone does, their own doubts and questions, but overall, like I had a pretty good, I thought, understanding of God. So that was really the basis for me wanting to get blessed, and wanting to continue this lineage that my parents started, right, with coming from true parents. And then my faith grew with a couple of workshops I did. I went to Germany and to Austria once when I was 16, 17, did a couple of harp workshops. And finally, when I was 20, I went with my mom to Champyeong. That was my first time going to Champyeong, to Korea. And we did a 40-day workshop. And during that time, I got to interact with other BCs. I got to understand and study the divine principle together. And I felt, through prayer conditions that I was doing, okay, I'm really faithful, I'm really connected. Now I'm ready. Whenever God calls me, I'm ready to go to the blessing. Right. So this was me at 20 years old. You might think like, oh, you're still pretty young, and are you sure you're ready? But I don't know. I just had this kind of faith. So I didn't think very practically. It was more just, I want to receive God's blessing. So it was just a few months later, actually, that there was an announcement that True Parents were going to do a matching, and it might be the last one. During that time, it was often like, this could be the last one. This was 2009, so it's actually just, as it turns out, a few years before True Father passed away, right? So we had very short notice, and I only had like a week or so to decide. There wasn't even time to do the 7-day fast completely beforehand, but I said, like, okay, I make this commitment. I told God in Champyeong I'm ready, so I signed up, and I went to Korea. And I did end up getting matched by True Parents at that time and received the blessing. within couple of days of getting to know my partner. But unfortunately, although I came into this relationship with very strong faith, my partner did not. He was 19, and as it turned out, he was quite unprepared for what the blessing really means, and being able to accept anyone and having that faith in God. He started to tell me like I'm doubting my faith. So it was a very painful experience. Like after several months, we were in separate countries, so we didn't really meet in person. But after several months, he emailed me and then said that he wanted to break it off. And that, experience, of course, really hurt me. And I didn't want to accept it for a while. And it was kind of a shock to me, because I guess you can say in a way I grew up a bit naive. Since I didn't grow up around other second gen, I didn't know that there are some people who are not as faithful as me. It sounds a bit silly, right? You think, what a silly girl she is. But I guess because I grew up so far away from it all, or maybe it's just a human thing where you can't think from other people's perspective so easily. You think other people think like you do. I was like, how can somebody break this? Like it's the most important and precious thing, right? So yeah, it took me some time to get over that. And yeah, it made me think, like the faith in God comes first. And if I go through this again, ask my parents' help to find someone, the first thing I'm going to ask them, how is your faith in God? Like that'll be always the first question I want to confirm. And so I took several years, I focused on developing myself. I graduated from college. I started my teaching job. And then I joined OLT, which is a training program similar to GPA or STF, but in Australia. And I did that for 2 years. This was the time that really helped me develop my relationship with true parents. Because up until this point, I was a lot more close to God than to true parents. I have to say, like, it was a bit harder to connect to them. I didn't have much, in-person connection. I didn't grow up getting to see true family or anything like that. So they felt very distant to me. But during these 2 years in OLT, I could develop myself a lot spiritually and understand the divine principle more deeply. Also, it helped me gain a new appreciation for the blessing, and I pushed my parents, like I really want to get blessed. And so at this point, like I'm in my mid-20s, and my parents are looking actively. I had like a profile on the website, and it's a bit slow because also my parents don't have so many contacts. I mean, they have to look always for people outside because there's nobody in the country, right? And yeah, it's hard when you're not in a community, like a big community. You don't have so much support, but they still did their best, especially my mom. She did a lot of conditions for me, and I joined her sometimes. And eventually, I talked to somebody. There were a couple of people that I talked to, but each time it ended with disappointment and didn't work out. And I lost a little bit of hope each time, right? Especially when one of them told me, you're getting old, so if you don't accept me, you're probably not going to find anybody. But I was like, you know what, being honest, if that's how it's going to be, then I'd rather just stay single than get blessed to you. That was maybe really harsh, but that was my stance, because I had to be honest with myself, and it wasn't so much the external stuff that mattered to me, like which country they're from, or I'm ready to learn a different language, or to be able to adapt myself to different situations. But I still had certain values and characteristics that I wanted, in my partner. I didn't want to compromise on certain things, right? That we shared same core values and things. That was really important. So anyway, there was like this time period when I started to really struggle and think, maybe I should just live by myself, and that's okay. I could serve God in other ways by being like a missionary in Africa somewhere, or I could have a different life. Maybe God doesn't mean for me to get married. it doesn't work out for everybody, right? And I thought maybe that's okay. I also thought, you know, I'm really tall. I'm like 6 feet tall. You can't see it here on camera, but it's like, it's gonna be really hard to find a tall guy for me. So yeah, anyway. But then I thought, I still wanted to try again. And the main reason was because I still, you know, through reading Hundake and other things, I still had this belief, like, God's desire for us is to have a family, right? And I wanted to fulfill that so badly. And yeah, then thanks to not giving up and keeping up that hope, eventually, it worked out. And it was, I can see now that God really worked, you know, to find my husband for me. So it was like my mom contacted somebody in a profile, and this guy turned out to already be matched, so he shouldn't have been on the website. But then she got in touch with a blessing advisor that way, John Abelseth, who's here on this call. And you know, John Abelseth is actually the one, I guess, who can say brought us together, and so I'm so grateful to him. Yeah, so he shared Dawn's profile with my mom, and then, you know, the parents started talking and we started talking. Yeah, and I can't believe like how smoothly it went, you know, compared to all the previous experiences. This one just felt so right. So, you know, even though we could say I got blessed at the relatively late age of 29, but you know, in the end, I'm so grateful, because through all the experiences that I had before, that really just prepared me for the relationship, and it made me so grateful for what I have, even though now it's been almost 2 years since we got blessed, but I still wake up in the morning sometimes. I just turn to my husband and say, wow, you know, are you really my husband? Are we really blessed? You know, I feel so lucky. And I always have that gratitude. So, you know, that means I can't get mad at him. You know, we never fight. Like, I don't know how it's possible for us to fight. So I just feel like all these years really just taught me how to be very patient and caring. And, you know, so yeah, I think that God didn't give up on me, and I didn't give up either, and I'm so grateful for that. So I guess that's just what I want to leave you all with, you know, whatever your situation is, don't give up, and God will find a way for you. You know, he can work through anyone. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to my story. So sorry, I'll concede the rest of my time to my husband. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Natascha. There's a lot of love for you in the chat. So much relatable. Thank you. Sharing so honestly and deeply.
Yes. Thank you. Actually, how do I follow that?
We even talk about the horizontal preparation.
Yes, right. So when you think of the idea, preparing for the blessing, it can sound like a very abstract idea, like you might be completely empty of thoughts. How do you even do that? Or you might be really full of thoughts, like there's so much to do. How do I do that? But really, your preparation for the blessing starts when you're born. When you start developing any kind of love or any kind of heart, then inherently you are making slow but sure steps toward being able to develop your conjugal heart and conjugal love. One of the things that I needed to learn and understand was self-love. When I was young, throughout the entire time I've been alive, I've had self-esteem issues. That's just been how it's been. And that was something that I really had to work through. I didn't think it was an issue. I thought that I could go my whole life with self-esteem issues after I admitted them, because I thought it was humbling. I thought I could kind of spin this into something that was positive or something that didn't take away too much from my life. But it started interfering with my relationship and my ability to be matched. I mean, I saw the person who was perfect for me, and I couldn't admit that I deserved her because I thought she was so amazing, and her profile was like here and mine was like down here, and I had no idea why she had any interest in me whatsoever. so my self-esteem was really getting in the way of me developing myself and having a sense of self-identity. So once I realized it was a problem, it's ideal to figure out your inner challenges before the matching process. I figured it out during, and that was okay. I was able to work through it. Natascha was able to understand it, and now it's something that we're both aware of and that we manage. So just knowing your inner challenges, being able to communicate with them, and then your partner being able to honestly say whether or not they're willing to help you manage it, in what ways, and being able to communicate and compromise those challenges, that's what it's all about. That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Well said.
all I have.
Great compliment.
Fantastic.
I don't know if you've had a chance to see in the chat while you're talking, but you're a really beautiful couple.
Amazing.
You took it away, but very moved by your talk and how you both shared.
Thank you.
Do you have some final words for us? Did you want to part ways?
Be honest. I think, Natascha, I don't know if you remember this, but we had a conversation once, and we were talking about all these qualities, and we were like, okay, what's the most important quality to have? And the one that I just threw under the bus was honesty, because I was like, well, do you really need to be honest if you have everything else? I mean, what if they break the TV and lie? Like, I was always sympathetic during the sitcoms when a character would do something like that. I don't know why, but I think over the course of our relationship, I realized, no, actually, honesty is probably the number one thing, because you could be not very good at anything else if you're inconsistent with all kinds of things, but as long as you're honest about it, you can get through just about anything.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I guess if I would leave with anything, it would be, be sure of why you want to get blessed, right? Be clear about that in your own heart, and be honest, like Don said, with your parents or your matching advisor, whoever it is that you have to support you, in this journey. And, tell them honestly, like, what you're looking for, and so they can best help you, and always have faith in God, and know that God loves you and wants you to be happy. So don't give up. Thank you.